The prison was silent except for the sound of dripping water. Cold walls of metal surrounded the place, and chains rattled every time she moved. The alien woman, once proud, now sat on the hard ground, her wrists bound with glowing cuffs. Her eyes carried both fire and sorrow. Fire because she once ruled, sorrow because she had been forgotten. For days, she had not seen the light of freedom. For weeks, no one had spoken to her except the guards who mocked her weakness. Then the sound of footsteps came, slow and heavy. The cell door opened with a hiss, and 2 guards dragged another prisoner inside. They threw him onto the ground without care, a human, bruised but alive. She lifted her head, curious, her silver eyes narrowing. Humans were not supposed to survive long in these prisons. To her people, humans were fragile, weak, and unworthy of respect. But this one did not break. He coughed, lifted his head, and met her gaze with calm eyes. He did not beg. He did not cry. He only whispered, "Are you all right?" The words shocked her. No one had asked her that in years. She turned away, pretending she had not heard, but her heart trembled. Could this human be different? The hours passed slowly. Guards checked the cells, torches flickered, and the night grew colder. The human shifted, testing his chains, his movements quiet but steady. The alien woman watched him from the corner of her eye. He did not panic. He did not rage. Instead, he studied the cuffs as if they were puzzles. She almost wanted to laugh. No one escaped from these chains. Then came the sound. A deep growl echoed through the halls, followed by sharp screeches. Even the guards outside seemed nervous. The alien woman stiffened. She knew that sound. The beast they kept in the lower dungeons. Wild creatures used to punish prisoners. If the guards were nervous, it meant one of them had broken free. She turned to the human and whispered for the first time, "You do not understand what is coming." But he only gave a small smile. "Then we will face it together." Her chest tightened at the strange courage in his voice. Together? No one had ever said that to her before. The growls grew louder. The guards rushed down the hall, weapons ready, leaving the prisoners alone. The human leaned forward, pulling something from his sleeve, a small sharp piece of metal, hidden until now. Her eyes widened. Clever, very clever. He worked quickly, pressing it against the lock of his cuffs, sparks flying. The sound of footsteps faded. The guards were gone. Only the growls and the sound of breaking chains remained. At last, the cuffs snapped open. The human rubbed his wrists. Then, without hesitation, he moved to her side. She pulled back, her pride telling her not to trust. But he spoke again, firm and calm. "If we stay, we die. If we go, we live. Let me help you." Something inside her cracked, a piece of hope she thought she had lost. She nodded slowly, and he began working on her cuffs. The sparks danced again, and within moments, the chains fell from her arms. For the first time in years, she was free. The ground shook as the beast roared from below. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the torches flickered wildly. The human grabbed her hand, not waiting for her choice this time. They ran together through the open cell door. The hallway stretched before them, dark and endless. Every step echoed like thunder, yet they did not stop. Behind them, the growl of the beast drew closer. Ahead of them, alarms began to blare, warning the guards that 2 prisoners had escaped. The alien woman's breath came fast, her heart racing. Freedom felt unreal, dangerous, yet powerful. The human's grip was strong, steady, as if he had done this 100 times before. She wanted to ask him why he cared, why he risked his life for her. But there was no time, only running, only survival. And in that chaos, a spark of trust began to form, a spark that would grow into something neither of them expected. The beast roared again, closer this time. The ground trembled, and a shadow moved in the darkness behind them. The human pulled her forward, his voice steady. "We're not done yet." And for the first time, she believed him. For the first time, she wanted to believe. The chains were gone from her wrists, but she felt something new instead. Not chains, but a strange invisible thread that tied her fate to his. She did not know where the path would lead. But she knew this. Her story had just begun. The alarm screamed through the fortress, red lights flashing across the metallic walls. The alien woman and the human ran side by side, their footsteps echoing through the endless corridors. Behind them, the growls of the beast mixed with the heavy march of guards who had discovered the escape. The woman's heart pounded in her chest. She had dreamed of freedom, but never thought it would come like this. The human, still bruised and bleeding, did not slow down, his hand gripping hers tightly, guiding her through the twisting halls. She had never trusted anyone before, not since her capture, yet here she was, following a human. Each time she looked at him, she saw determination in his eyes, as if failure was not an option. The alarms grew louder, boots thundered behind them, weapons charged with deadly energy. At the end of the hallway, they found a locked steel door. The alien woman's hope faltered. "We are trapped," she whispered. But the human's face did not change. He dropped to his knees, pulling wires from the panel beside the door. His fingers moved quickly, twisting, pulling, connecting, sparks flying as if he had done this countless times. She watched in silence, surprised by his skill. Humans were supposed to be weak, yet this one was clever, sharp, and fearless. The door clicked, then slid open with a hiss. They rushed inside, only to find themselves in a large chamber filled with machines and pipes. Steam hissed from broken valves, and the air smelled of oil and burning metal. The human scanned the room quickly, eyes sharp. "Maintenance tunnels, these can take us out," he said. The alien woman followed, unsure but desperate. The tunnels were narrow and dark, forcing them to crawl. Behind them, the sound of guards echoed, shouts mixed with the distant growl of the beast that had escaped its cage. The ground shook with each roar, dust falling from above. The alien woman's chains were gone, but the weight of fear still clung to her. For years, she had accepted her fate as a captive. Now she was running for her life with someone she did not know. Yet she could not deny the truth. Without him, she would still be in that cell. She whispered, almost to herself, "Why did you free me? You could have escaped alone." The human's voice came calm, steady, "Because no one deserves to be in chains." Her chest tightened at his words, so simple yet so powerful. She had never heard such a thing from her own kind, let alone from a human. The tunnels twisted endlessly, some parts flooded with water, others filled with thick smoke. More than once, they had to stop as guards passed above them. The human kept her moving, never letting go of her hand. At last, they reached a grate that opened to the outside. The alien woman froze when she saw the sky. For so long, she had only seen darkness and walls. Now above her stretched a blood-red horizon, twin moons glowing faintly. Her breath caught. It felt unreal, like a dream. The human smiled faintly, even in his exhaustion. "We're not free yet, but it's a start." They stepped out into the wilderness, the air dry and sharp, the ground rocky and uneven. Behind them, the fortress loomed like a beast of steel, its towers flashing with warning lights. Search drones flew into the night sky, beams of light sweeping across the land. The alien woman knew they would not stop until they were caught. The human pointed toward the jagged mountains in the distance. "If we reach there, we can lose them." Together, they ran, each step carrying them further from the prison, but closer to danger. The night was filled with pursuit. Drones buzzed overhead, their red eyes scanning the ground. At one point, a beam of light caught them, and the woman froze. But the human pulled her down into a shallow ditch, covering her with his own body. The drone passed, blind to their presence. She stared at him, stunned. He had risked himself to shield her without hesitation. Her heart, once hardened, now felt strange, confused, but alive. As they climbed the rocky hills, exhaustion pulled at them. The human stumbled, his wounds slowing him down, but he pushed forward, refusing to stop. The alien woman finally grabbed his arm, forcing him to rest. "You are injured," she said, her voice sharp yet filled with concern. He gave a tired smile. "I'll heal later, right now, You must live. She did not understand him, why he cared, why he risked everything for her. But deep inside, she wanted to believe his words. She wanted to believe in him. The fortress grew smaller behind them, the searchlights fading. The mountains loomed closer, tall and dark, offering both danger and safety. They collapsed at the base of the cliffs, their breaths heavy. For the first time since her capture, the alien woman felt something she had lost long ago. Hope. The human leaned back against the rocks, eyes closing for a moment. She watched him, silently, her heart conflicted. He was a stranger, yet he had given her freedom. And in that moment, she realized something that shook her more than the alarms or the beast. Her fate was no longer her own, it was tied to his. The night wind howled, the stars shone cold. And in the darkness, two fugitives rested side by side. The alien woman closed her eyes, whispering words she had not spoken in years. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice almost lost to the wind. The human did not answer, his breathing steady in sleep. But in her heart, she felt an answer. The beginning of something new, something dangerous, yet unbreakable. Their escape had only just begun. The night did not stay silent for long. From a fortress behind them came the sound of engines, heavy and sharp. Searchlights cut across the sky, sweeping like blades of fire. The human and the alien woman crouched low among the rocks, their breaths quick, their bodies aching. The escape had given them hope, but the chase was only beginning. The human pressed his hand against the dirt, feeling the tremors. "Vehicles," he whispered, "they're coming fast." The alien woman clenched her fists. Her chains were gone, but her spirit still felt heavy. She had been a captive for so long. Her instincts told her to hide, to wait, to survive. But this human, he refused to hide. She could see it in his eyes. He would fight until the last breath. And strangely, that fire began to burn inside her as well. They moved through the jagged terrain, slipping between sharp cliffs and narrow passages. The mountains rose higher with every step, shadows stretching like claws. The ground was uneven, sharp stones cutting their skin, but neither slowed down. Behind them, search drones flew low, their red beams scanning the ground. One beam caught her shoulder, and she froze for an instant. The human pulled her close, dragging her into the shadows. The drone's beam passed, but its alarm shrieked through the night. Within seconds, more drones swarmed above them. The human's jaw tightened. He pulled out a broken piece of pipe he had grabbed from the tunnels. Crude, but in his hands, it became a weapon. The first drone swooped down, its claws reaching for them. He swung with force, striking it out of the air, sparks flying. The alien woman gasped, her eyes wide. She had not expected such power. The other drones circled, red lights blinking like hungry eyes. She bent low, her hands gripping loose stones. If he could fight, so could she. The chase carried them deeper into the mountains. The air grew colder, thin and sharp. The human fought off drones while she hurled stones with precision, striking their sensors. Each crash of metal into the ground gave them a moment to breathe. But the fortress forces were relentless. From the valley below, armored vehicles climbed the slopes, their engines growling. She turned to the human, panic flickering in her chest. "They will surround us," she said. He only smiled faintly, sweat running down his face. "Then we make them chase where they cannot follow." He led her toward a narrow path, barely wide enough for one person. The cliffs dropped steeply on both sides, the wind howling through the gap. She hesitated, fear gripping her heart. But he stepped forward without looking back, forcing her to follow. The vehicles could not fit. The drones had less space to fly. It was their only chance. The path twisted higher, rocks crumbling under their feet. The alien woman stumbled, almost falling, but the human caught her arm, pulling her close. His grip was steady, firm, as if he carried not just his weight, but hers too. She felt her chest tighten again, not with fear this time, but with something she did not want to name. The chase grew fiercer, Shouts of soldiers echoed below. Blaster fire lit the air, bolts striking the cliffs, exploding in showers of sparks. One bolt struck close, the blast throwing dust and heat across their faces. The human shielded her, taking the hit of flying debris across his back. She cried out, but he only gritted his teeth. Keep moving. Step by step, they climbed higher. Step by step, the fortress lights grew smaller. Yet the danger did not fade. The drones returned, faster, sharper, each one armed with blades that cut the air. This time she did not hide. She picked up a jagged piece of metal from the ground, her stance firm. When the drone dived, she struck with all her strength, tearing through its wires. It crashed, flames burning bright against the night. The human glanced at her, and for the first time, he smiled. Not a smile of mockery, but of respect. And it filled her heart with a warmth she could not understand. Finally, the path opened into a wide plateau. The stars stretched above them, cold and endless. For a brief moment, there was silence. No drones, no engines, only the sound of the wind. The alien woman dropped to her knees, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. The human stood guard, scanning the darkness, his pipe still in his hand. She looked at him, her voice low. Why do you fight for me? You could run faster without me. He turned to her, his expression calm. Because you deserve more than chains, because no one should be left behind. Her heart trembled, those words striking deeper than any weapon. In that moment, she saw him not as weak, not as fragile, but as something far greater. The peace did not last. From the shadows came the sound of boots, dozens of soldiers climbing the plateau. Their weapons glowed, their eyes cold. The chase was not over. The human lifted his makeshift weapon, standing between her and the enemy. And she, once a captive, stood beside him, no longer helpless, no longer silent. Together, they faced the storm. The night sky burned with fire as the battle began. The plateau shook under the weight of boots. Dozens of alien soldiers climbed out of the shadows, their armor shining in the moonlight. Their weapons glowed with deadly fire, pointed straight at the fugitives. The alien woman's breath caught, her heart pounding. She had seen these soldiers before, ruthless, merciless, the same ones who once chained her. The human, standing tall with nothing but a broken pipe, looked at them without fear. The soldiers spread out, surrounding them. One of the commanders shouted, his voice sharp like a blade, "Return the prisoner. Kill the human." The alien woman's hands trembled. For so long she had been treated as property, never seen as a person. But when she looked at the human beside her, something inside her changed. He was ready to die for her, and she could not let that happen. The first blast came, a streak of fire tearing through the air. The human shoved her aside and rolled across the ground, the bolt striking the rock where she had stood. He rose quickly, swinging the pipe with fierce strength, striking a soldier's weapon and sending sparks across the night. The alien woman, no longer frozen, picked up a fallen soldier's blade, its edge glowing with red light. She had once been chained, but now the weapon felt natural in her hands. Her body remembered what her heart had forgotten. She was not weak, she was a fighter. The battle exploded, fire against steel, cries against the howl of the wind. The human fought with raw determination, every strike filled with survival and defiance. He ducked, dodged, and struck, moving with speed that surprised even her. A soldier swung at him, but the human caught the weapon and twisted it, turning the enemy's strength against him. The alien woman fought at his side, her blade flashing in the moonlight, cutting through chains and armor alike. She moved with growing confidence, every strike freeing her from the ghost of her captivity. Together they became a storm, two against many. The soldiers roared in anger, firing their blasters wildly. Bolts of fire lit the night sky, explosions echoing against the cliffs. Dust and smoke filled the air, but through it all, the human and the woman stood unbroken. Each time he fell back, she covered him. Each time she stumbled, he lifted her again. The bond between them grew not in words, but in every strike, in every shared breath. But the enemy was endless. For every soldier they struck down, more climbed up from the shadows. The human's body grew heavier, wounds bleeding, his face pale, but his eyes burning bright. The alien woman saw his pain, and for the first time in her life, she felt fear not for herself, but for someone else. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice weak but steady. "No," she answered, her voice strong. "We fight together." The soldiers laughed cruelly, believing victory was theirs. The commander raised his weapon, aiming at the human's chest. Time seemed to slow. The alien woman's heart screamed. She leapt forward, striking the commander's weapon aside, the blast exploding harmlessly against the ground. The human seized the moment, swinging with all his strength, the pipes smashing into the commander's armor, sending him crashing backward. The soldiers hesitated, shocked that two fugitives could resist so fiercely. The pause gave them a chance. The human grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the far side of the plateau. "There," he shouted, pointing to a crack in the cliffs, a narrow passage that led deeper into the mountains. Without hesitation, they ran, their legs weak but their spirits unbroken. The soldiers regained their courage, chasing after them, but the narrow passage gave the fugitives an advantage. Blaster fire struck the walls, sparks and dust filling the air. The human stumbled once, nearly falling, but she caught him, her grip strong. "You saved me," she whispered. "Now I save you." The chase turned into another battle, close and brutal. Soldiers tried to force their way into the narrow gap, but the human and the woman fought with fury. Every strike echoed through the stone walls. Every cry of pain mixed with the roar of the wind. The soldiers began to falter, their numbers pressed against the cliffs. The human's body shook with exhaustion, but his spirit did not break. The alien woman felt it too, the fire inside her, the freedom burning brighter than fear. At last, the final soldier fell, his weapon clattering to the ground. The passage fell silent, the night wind carrying away the smoke and dust. The alien woman stood trembling, her blade dripping with sparks of energy, her chest heaving. The human leaned against the rocks, his body shaking, but his eyes still filled with light. She moved closer, resting a hand on his shoulder. "You fight like no human I have ever seen," she whispered. He gave a tired smile. "And you fight like no captive I have ever known." For a moment, they stood in silence, two souls who should have been enemies but were now bound together. The stars above seemed brighter, as if the galaxy itself watched their defiance. The battle had not ended the chase, but it had changed something inside them. They were no longer just survivors. They were partners, fighters, a team against the galaxy. The alien woman lifted her face to the sky, her chains broken, her heart free. For the first time, she believed in something greater than survival. She believed in him, and she believed in herself again. The battle was only the beginning. The night wind carried the smell of smoke and steel. The human and the alien woman leaned against the rocks, their bodies heavy with exhaustion. For hours they had fought, run, and bled, yet they were still alive. The stars above were sharp and cold, watching silently, as if the galaxy itself was curious about them. The alien woman stared at her hands, once bound in chains, now stained with battle. She had fought again, not as a prisoner, but as a warrior, and the feeling made her heart tremble. The human sat nearby, his back against the stone, his wounds dark with blood. Yet even in pain, his eyes carried fire. She moved closer, kneeling beside him, tearing a strip of her clothing to bind his wounds. "You should rest," she whispered, her voice softer than she intended. He gave a faint smile, shaking his head. "We rest when we're safe." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the howl of the wind. Her eyes lowered, her voice almost a whisper. "You don't know who I am, do you?" The human raised an eyebrow, curious. "Tell me." She hesitated, her chest tight with memories she had buried. I was not always a captive, she began, her voice steady but heavy. I was born into power. My father was a ruler. My people followed me, but greed and betrayal took it all. My own blood sold me to the enemy, and they chained me like an animal. Her hands shook as she spoke, her silver eyes dark with anger and sorrow. I thought my life had ended in that cell. I thought I was nothing. The human listened quietly, not interrupting. When she finished, he spoke gently. You were never nothing. They tried to break you, but they failed. Her breath caught. No one had ever said that to her before. For years, she had believed the lies of her captors, that she was weak, worthless, broken. But this human, wounded and hunted, looked at her as if she was still whole, still strong. Her heart felt strange, like a chain inside had snapped. She looked at him, her voice trembling. And you? Why are you here? Why fight for someone you barely know? The human's eyes grew distant, shadows passing over his face. I fought in a war I could not win, he said slowly. I lost my people, my brothers, my home. They all fell, and I was taken. I thought I was the last of my kind. His voice cracked, but he forced himself to continue. I thought I would die in that cell, until I saw you, and something inside me refused to give up. The alien woman felt her chest ache, his pain echoing inside her own. 2 lives, 2 tragedies, both broken by war, yet now tied together by survival. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the fire between them not from flames, but from the truth they had shared. Her eyes softened, and she whispered, maybe we were meant to meet. Maybe chains brought us together, so we could break them. The human looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time his tired smile carried warmth, not just strength. Something unspoken passed between them, fragile but powerful. But peace never lasted. The crunch of footsteps echoed through the rocks, faint but steady. Both of them tensed, their bodies ready. Shadows moved at the edge of the cliffs, shapes carrying weapons, their eyes glowing in the dark. The enemy had found them again. The alien woman tightened her grip on her blade, her body ready. The human forced himself to stand, his pipe weapon clenched in his bleeding hand. Neither spoke, but both knew this time it would not be an easy fight. As the shadows drew closer, she leaned toward him, whispering quickly, if they catch me, they will use me again. They will chain me. Don't let them take me alive. The human turned sharply, his eyes fierce. No, don't say that. They will not take you. Not while I breathe. Her heart shook at his words, so certain, so fearless. In that moment, she realized something she had tried to ignore. This human was no longer just an ally, no longer just a fellow fugitive. He was becoming something more, something her heart could not deny. The enemy stepped into the open, weapons ready, their commander's voice sharp, surrender, and perhaps we'll let you live. The human laughed, a sound rough but filled with defiance. Funny, he said, I was about to tell you the same thing. The alien woman smiled despite the danger, her blade glowing brighter in her hand. They stood together once more, not as prisoner and stranger, but as warriors. And though the night burned with danger, her heart carried something new. Hope. The secret had been spoken. Their pasts had been revealed. But it was not their past that defined them now. It was the bond they had forged in fire. The battle was coming again, and this time they would fight not just for freedom, but for each other. The night sky glowed faintly with twin moons, casting silver light across the rocks. The human and the alien woman stood back to back, facing the enemy that had tracked them again. Dozens of soldiers moved in a circle, their armor gleaming, weapons humming with deadly fire. The commander stepped forward, his voice loud. We want the woman. Give her to us, and the human may live. The alien woman froze, her heart twisting. She had been a prisoner for so long that part of her still believed escape was impossible. And now the enemy offered her life in exchange for his. If she surrendered, he might survive, but she would return to chains. If she refused, both of them could die here under the moons. The human's voice cut through her storm of thoughts, steady and calm. Don't listen to them, they lie. He raised his weapon, nothing more than a broken pipe, but held it like a soldier ready to face death. She looked at him, bruised, bleeding, yet still standing like a wall of iron. Her throat tightened because she knew he was ready to die for her. And deep inside, she asked herself, was she ready to die for him? The commander sneered. Decide, girl, betray the human and you live. Stand with him and you both perish. The alien woman felt the weight of chains around her wrists again, though they were no longer there. She remembered the years of silence, the cruelty, the hopeless nights. And then she remembered the moment he touched her hand and said, "Together." The choice burned inside her chest, bright and painful. She stepped forward, her blade glowing, her voice sharp as steel. "I choose him." The soldiers roared in anger, their circle closing in. Blaster fire erupted, red bolts cutting through the night. The human shoved her aside, swinging his pipe, knocking one soldier's weapon into another. The alien woman charged, her blade slashing through armor, sparks flying with each strike. Together they became fire and storm, two against many, refusing to fall. The enemy pressed harder, overwhelming with numbers. The human staggered as a bolt grazed his side, his blood dark against the rocks. She screamed his name, fury flooding her veins, and struck with all her strength, her blade piercing the chest of the soldier who hurt him. The commander aimed at the human again, but she leapt in front, blocking the shot with her blade. The energy scorched her arm, but she did not fall. The human pulled her back, his voice fierce. "Don't throw yourself away. Not for me." She met his eyes, her own burning with tears. "I will never betray you, not even to save myself." The soldiers hesitated, their discipline shaken by the sight of loyalty stronger than fear. The commander growled, frustrated, "Then you both die." He charged forward, his weapon raised. The human met him head-on, their clash echoing like thunder. Metal struck metal. Sparks flew. The commander's strength matched against the human's defiance. The alien woman joined in, her blade slicing across the commander's armor, forcing him back. Together, they fought as one, their movements in perfect rhythm. The enemy tried to break them apart, but they could not be separated. Their choice had bound them stronger than chains. At last, the commander fell, his weapon shattered, his soldiers retreating in shock. The battlefield grew silent except for the sound of heavy breathing. The human dropped to one knee, his wounds bleeding, his body trembling from exhaustion. The alien woman knelt beside him, gripping his hand tightly. Her voice shook but carried strength. "You gave me freedom, and I gave you my choice. No matter what happens, we stand together." The human's tired eyes softened, his lips curving into a faint smile. "Then nothing in this galaxy can break us." The remaining soldiers fled into the night, carrying news of their failure. The human and the woman were left alone on the plateau, battered but unbroken. The wind howled through the cliffs, but within them burned a fire no storm could put out. She looked at him and realized her heart was no longer chained. It had chosen, and it had chosen him. Their journey was not over, but now it was clear. This was no longer just an escape. It was a fight for love, for freedom, for a future they would build together. The nights stretched long and cold, but they leaned against each other, unafraid. For the galaxy could not defeat a choice made by the heart. The night was long, but dawn finally touched the sky with pale light. The alien woman and the human sat against the rocks, their bodies wounded, yet their spirits unbroken. Smoke still lingered from a battle, the ground scattered with broken weapons and shattered armor. But for the first time in years, she did not feel like a prisoner. For the first time, she felt alive. The human's head leaned back, his eyes half closed, his strength nearly gone. She pressed her hand against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding, her silver eyes filled with worry. "You should not have fought so hard," she whispered. "You nearly died." He gave a faint smile, his voice weak but steady. "I would die 1,000 times if it meant you were free." Her chest tightened, her heart trembling at his words. She had heard many promises in her life, from rulers, from soldiers, from betrayers, but none had ever spoken with such truth. The sky grew brighter, the suns rising slowly over the mountains. The alien woman turned her face toward the light, and it felt like freedom itself was touching her skin. Chains no longer bound her wrists, yet she knew the real chains had always been in her heart. Chains of fear, of hopelessness, of silence. Now they were broken, and the one who broke them sat beside her, human and fragile, yet stronger than anyone she had ever known. She leaned closer, her voice soft. "You freed more than my body. You freed my soul." The human opened his eyes, looking at her with quiet intensity. "Then don't waste your freedom," he whispered. "Live, live for yourself." Her lips curved into a small smile. "I will live, but not alone, never alone again." For a while they rested, their breaths steadying, their hands never letting go. But peace was fragile. In the distance, smoke rose from the fortress, signaling that more soldiers would come. The galaxy would not forgive their defiance. Yet when she looked at him, she did not feel fear. She felt courage. She felt love. She felt something worth fighting for. They moved again, climbing higher into the mountains. Every step was heavy, but their hearts were light. They passed streams of silver water, caves glowing faintly with crystals, the world alive with beauty she had forgotten existed. Each sight reminded her that freedom was more than survival. It was wonder, it was choice. The human stumbled once, his wounds slowing him, and she caught him, supporting his weight without hesitation. "You carried me when I was weak," she said softly. "Now I will carry you." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "You're stronger than you think." By nightfall they found a hidden valley, safe and untouched. The stars above shimmered like rivers of fire, and the air smelled of wildflowers. Here, away from chains, away from battle, they finally allowed themselves to breathe. The alien woman sat close to the human, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. She remembered the cell where they first met, the hopelessness, the silence. Now here they were, free, alive together. It felt like a story the galaxy itself would remember. She placed her hand on his, her voice steady but warm. "You are no longer just the one who freed me. You are the one who holds my heart." The human looked at her, his expression soft, his pain forgotten for a moment. "And you," he whispered, "are no longer a captive. You are my beloved." Her breath caught, her eyes shining with tears she did not hide. No chains, no war, no enemy could erase what they had built. In the ashes of battle, they had found something greater than survival. They had found love. The night stretched long, but in their hearts there was no darkness. Only the promise of tomorrow, a future they would fight for together. And though the galaxy would hunt them, though enemies would rise again, they knew nothing could break the bond forged in fire and freedom. The alien woman leaned her head against his shoulder, her eyes closing in peace. For the first time in her life, she felt safe, she felt whole, and the human, weary but unyielding, whispered the words that sealed their story. "From captive to beloved, you are mine, and I am yours." The stars burned brighter above them, as if the universe itself blessed their vow. And their journey, once filled with chains and shadows, became a story of love that no war could destroy.